Every year in America, hundreds of thousands of children are reported missing. Most are found within hours. Some return days later, shaken but safe. But a small, terrifying number simply disappear. No trace, no body, no closure, and no answers. These are the cases that haunt families, investigators, and an entire nation. Tonight, we're telling 3 disturbing missing child cases that remain unsolved to this day. Story 1. On a quiet morning in late May, 6-year-old Evan stepped out of his apartment building for what should have been an ordinary walk to school. It was the first time his parents allowed him to go alone. Just a short blocks, broad daylight, a neighborhood he knew well. At 8 a.m., Evan was seen walking down the sidewalk, holding a small bag in his hand. He never reached the school bus stop. At first, no one panicked. Children miss buses, children wander. But when Evan didn't show up at school, concern quickly turned into fear. Police were called. Search teams arrived. The neighborhood was flooded with officers, volunteers, and dogs. There were no signs of a struggle. No screams were reported. No witnesses saw anything unusual. Evan had vanished without leaving a single trace behind. Days passed, then weeks. Flyers with Evan's face appeared everywhere. His disappearance quickly became national news. For the first time, America began seeing missing children featured on milk cartons, news broadcasts, and billboards. Parents across the country stopped letting their children walk alone. Playgrounds grew quiet. A sense of innocence was lost. Years later, suspects emerged. Confessions were claimed. Trials were held. But the evidence never brought closure. Evan was never found. His remains were never recovered. To this day, investigators still ask the same question. How does a child disappear in broad daylight, in a familiar place, without anyone seeing a thing? Story 2. On a warm vacation night, a family stayed at a seaside resort. It was meant to be a peaceful holiday. Their 3-year-old daughter, Lily, was tucked into bed while her parents dined nearby. Throughout the evening, they checked on her periodically. Everything seemed normal, until one check changed everything. The bedroom window was open. The curtains moved with the breeze. Lily's bed was empty. There were no signs of forced entry, no broken locks. No screams were heard by nearby guests. It was as if Lily had been lifted from the room without making a sound. Police arrived quickly, but confusion followed. Attention shifted between resort staff, nearby tourists, and eventually the parents themselves. Media coverage exploded. Every detail of the family's life was analyzed and criticized. Sightings of Lily were reported across multiple countries. None were confirmed. Years of investigations followed. Millions of dollars were spent. Hundreds of leads were chased. Still, no definitive answer ever came. What makes this case especially disturbing is the location. Lily disappeared while sleeping, surrounded by adults, in a place meant to be safe. It shattered the belief that proximity alone can protect a child. Story 3. 7-year-old Noah was excited for his school's science fair. On the morning of the event, he proudly showed his project to classmates and teachers. Photos were taken. Smiles were shared. At 8:45 a.m., Noah was seen walking toward his classroom. By 10 a.m., he was gone. The school was immediately locked down. Teachers searched classrooms. Hallways were checked. Doors were sealed. But Noah was nowhere to be found. Security cameras showed him inside the building, but never leaving it. Search efforts expanded beyond the school. Nearby woods were combed. Rivers were searched. Construction sites were examined. Not a single trace was found. Suspicion eventually turned toward those closest to him. Family members were investigated. Relationships collapsed under the pressure. Accusations were made, but no evidence ever surfaced. Years later, the case remains open. Noah has never been found. His disappearance remains one of the most baffling in modern history. How does a child vanish from a school in the middle of the day without anyone noticing? These children weren't reckless. They weren't alone in dangerous places. They were walking to school, sleeping in bed, standing in a hallway, and then they were gone. These cases remind us that the most frightening mysteries are not the ones with monsters, but the ones with no ending, no answers, and no closure.